The meeting hall was crowded with settlers who'd survived 2 hard winters and trusted only what they'd seen work.
You expect us to believe a house buried like a root cellar will keep you warm. You'll wake up frozen solid, Warren?
I am not asking anyone to believe, Charles. Winter will do the talking.
The room rippled with low, scoffing laughter, the kind that marks a man as a fool before he's given his proof.
A house too lazy to stand up straight. That's what the county'll remember.
John didn't look at the laughing faces. He tucked his notebook under his arm and walked toward the door.
Laugh all you want. The sun and soil don't need your approval.
The door closed behind him, and the laughter faded into murmurs. Charles Morton shook his head and lit his pipe.
That man's stubborn pride will be his death. Mark my words.
Outside, the first true cold of autumn had already begun to climb the valley walls, and winter was only weeks away. John Warren stood on his land 3 days after the meeting. Beside him, a spade, a level, and a brown dog that had followed him halfway across the territory.
Easier to mock a man than to move a mountain of earth. But I only need 3 walls.
By the week's end, he'd broken ground, squared the north corner, and started laying stone. His dog watched from the edge of the clearing as the foundation trench deepened.
A house buried like a dead horse won't stay warm, Warren. Frost goes deeper than you think.
Frost has to move through something, Charles. Earth doesn't let it move fast.
Charles shook his head and rode on, leaving John to the silence and the shovel.
3 walls of earth, 1 wall of glass. Let the sun do the rest.
By first snow, north and east walls were banked high, the west berm rising.
Come see me in February, Charles. Then we'll talk.
John carefully fitted the last south-facing window into its frame as the November sun hung low.
South glass catches every hour of winter light. The sun won't charge me for it.
By late afternoon, the house sat low against the hill, 3 walls buried in earth, 1 of glass catching the last amber light.
It's not pretty, but I don't need pretty. I need heat that stays.
So you finished your bear den, Warren. Still think dirt is warmer than a proper hearth?
It's not the hearth, Charles. It's what keeps the hearth's heat from running away.
Charles pulled his collar tight, muttered something, and rode off. That night, the first snow came, silent and steady. Inside, John sat by the stove, his dog at his feet, watching flakes drift past the glass.
Winter's here. Now we learn if earth and glass can hold warmth better than fire alone.
The house stood ready. The test had begun. Light snow dusted the plain. John's house showed only its south windows catching the pale light. Inside, John sat by the windows, a book open. He hadn't added wood since dawn.
Cold outside, but inside, it's another world. February will test us.
In Charles's cabin, frost feathered the window, breath visible near the fire.
Warren must be freezing in that dirt heap. A small fire won't save him.
But John wasn't freezing. The earth walls held the daytime heat like a banked fire.
The earth gives back the sun's heat. So far, so good.
Neighbors whispered John's place used less fuel, blaming its small size, not design.
A single room heats easier. That's geometry, not genius.
The mild snow held a week, but the mountains gathered worse. The sky had an iron look. A week later, the temperature plunged. 30 below zero, then 40 below, the coldest winter anyone could remember. Inside John's house, he fed the stove a single log and pulled on his coat.
The walls are doing their job. The stove's almost decoration.
Outside, ice grew thick on neighbors' windows. Inside, they huddled close to roaring fires. Charles Morton's cabin ate through wood like hunger. Frost crept under the door.
Warren can't possibly be warm. His fuel must be half gone by now.
But John's woodpile barely shrank. The earth sealed the heat in like a heavy blanket.
Something's off. He's either burning furniture or... No, that's absurd.
As the cold deepened, cabin walls creaked and drafts found every seam. In John's house, the dog slept peacefully by the window, unmoved by the freeze outside. By mid-January, wood piles across the settlement had shrunk to bare dirt. Families broke apart furniture for fuel.
I've got wood to spare. No one should freeze for lacking a log.
Most turned away, their pride biting sharper than the cold. Charles watched from the ridge, noting every time John walked toward his woodpile. After dark, Charles crept to the stack. It looked as if John had barely touched it.
That can't be, unless the earth is holding heat better than any wall.
A family with a newborn cried for warmth. John left a bundle of kindling and 3 logs at their door.
Could compacted dirt really insulate that well? It defies every calculation.
The empty woodlots of the town stared back at Charles, while John's stack stood nearly untouched. That night, Charles lay sleepless, the frost on his own window, a silent rebuke. The storm arrived without warning, burying the valley under 3 feet of snow in a single night. By morning, John's house was a mound of white, only the south windows peering out.
The snow's a gift. It's piling on more insulation. We could be in shirt sleeves.
Across the settlement, families clawed at doors, their cabins iced shut and dark.
Thermal mass. I ignored the heat stored in the earth. It's not just insulation, it's a battery.
In his journal, Charles scrawled a new set of figures, his hand trembling not from cold but from the shock of being wrong.
Outside the window, the world had stopped. Inside, I'll boil water for coffee.
I've been the fool, not Warren. The earth isn't a tomb. It's a fortress.
That afternoon, the sun broke through, and John's house gleamed like a golden egg in the snow. Charles watched from his frozen window, the seed of respect planted where skepticism had grown. The morning after the storm, Charles Morton appeared at John Warren's door, not to visit, but to interrogate.
Warren, open up. I want to know what you've hidden in these walls.
Nothing hidden, Charles. Just earth and glass. Come in and see.
Inside, Charles pointed at the south windows, the thin stove, the packed earth walls, his spectacles fogged from the warmth.
It shouldn't work. According to every principle I know, this place should be an icebox. What did you line the walls with?
I lined them with soil, Charles. The sun does the rest. You are overcomplicating it.
Soil doesn't hold heat. It's porous. It drains warmth. There's something else.
John walked to the wall, pressed his palm against the packed earth. It felt warm, not cold.
You are measuring what leaves, Charles, not what stays. The earth holds the sun's gift and releases it slow. No magic.
Could it be that simple? He's either a fool or I've missed something fundamental.
That evening, Charles returned to his cabin, lit a lamp, and opened a fresh journal. He would test every variable.
I'll measure temperature every hour, fuel consumption every day. The numbers don't lie.
For 3 days, Charles placed thermometers inside his own cabin and outside John's, counting every log they burned.
Warren's house is 6 degrees warmer than mine, yet he's used 1/3 of the wood. It can't be the design. Maybe it's the south-facing windows. More sun, that's it. Nothing to do with dirt.
He wrote in the margin, possible solar advantage, further testing required. It was a threadbare excuse.
I need a controlled experiment. 2 identical cabins, one burned, one not. But winter won't wait.
The numbers mounted. Day after day, John's house outperformed. Charles's pride stretched thin.
The earth is storing heat. I've been calling it a dead weight, but it's a flywheel.
He closed the journal, unwilling to publish the truth until he could prove it beyond any shadow. A rider brought word from the eastern plains. A windstorm was coming, the kind that had flattened whole towns. Men rushed to nail shutters, tie down roofs, and pray the stakes held.
Warren, that flat roof of yours will be torn off like paper. Dirt can't stop wind.
There's nothing for the wind to catch, Charles. The earth covers the edges. It'll just slide over.
Charles stormed off, shaking his head. Across the settlement, the hammering continued. By dusk, the first real gust shook the pines. and the sky turned a bruised purple. John pulled the dog inside and lashed a heavy blanket over the door frame.
If Warren is right about this, I'll eat my notebook.
The wind began to scream across the plain. John's house sat low, listening. The storm had arrived. The wind screamed across the plain. A neighbor's roof peeled back like a sardine tin, shingles spinning into the dark. At John Warren's house, the wind hit the earth banks and shot upward, leaving the roof untouched. Charles Morton's cabin groaned once, then the roof split. He grabbed his journal and fled into the gale. He staggered across the snow, blinded by ice, heading for the only house that wasn't shaking.
Get inside.
Charles tumbled in. The door slammed. Silence fell like a blanket.
It's holding. The windows aren't even rattling. He was right.
John fed the stove a single log. His dog yawned and resettled on the floor. Outside, the wind howled over the berms like a river around a stone.
Earth and glass. That's all it ever was. I've been blind.
Before midnight, half a dozen neighbors had pounded on the door, faces raw from ice. John passed out blankets, shuffled the stove, and told them the walls would hold. A woman cradling a child looked around the still room and whispered, "How can it be so calm in here?"
The earth hasn't moved since I piled it there. The glass catches the sun. That's all.
Charles sat against the earthen wall, his journal clutched to his chest, listening. Outside, the wind tried to find a seam to tear, but the berms gave it nothing. The old man who had once called John's house a tomb now rested his hand on the warm, packed earth. He looked at Charles, then at John, but said nothing. By dawn, the wind had spent its fury. The house had not even creaked. Charles rose stiffly, walked to the window, and watched the sunrise paint the snow gold. The door opened onto a plain of ruin. Cabins were reduced to sticks, but John's house stood untouched. Charles walked the perimeter, squinting at the berms. No erosion, no wind scouring. It was as if the storm had leaped over.
You were right, Warren. The earth gave the wind nothing to grab.
Simple physics. You just had to see it work.
The neighbors gathered in the yard, staring at the house, then at their own shattered homes. Murmurs rose like smoke. Charles walked to the wreckage of his cabin, pulled out his journal, and began to sketch volumes and slopes.
Thermal mass, aerodynamics, solar gain. I need to calculate this properly.
An old woman touched the south window gently and whispered to no one, "It's warm." John watched them all, his hand resting on the dog's head. The laughter had died somewhere in the night.
Warren, I'll be back with figures you can use. This can't stay your secret.
A week later, the town met in the hall. John stood and proposed rebuilding using earth berming.
We can pile earth against 3 sides. Let glass catch the sun. I'll teach anyone willing.
The room grumbled. A man shouted, "We want proper cabins, not dirt holes."
Wait. I've run the numbers. Warren's house used 1/3 of the wood and survived a wind that tore off roofs.
The hall quieted. Charles Morton, the engineer, defending the fool's house.
I was wrong to mock him. The physics is sound. If we don't learn, more roofs will fly.
I am not asking you to believe me. Believe the storm.
That afternoon, 3 families stepped forward. One was the old man who'd called the house a tomb.
We start tomorrow. Bring shovels and strong backs.
Charles opened his journal and began drafting the first permanent earth house design. By morning, blueprints covered the table. Charles had calculated every slope and angle of thermal mass and wind shear.
You've got the math, Charles. I've got the muscle. Let's put them together.
The ground froze hard, but the crew of 3 families and their shovels broke it. John worked the shovel beside them, the dog lying on the rising berm like a supervisor. Charles walked the site with a notebook, calling out depths and angles. The skeptics watched from the road.
Keep the slope at 45 degrees. No steeper, or the frost will heave it.
By the end of the week, 3 low houses faced south, dirt banked high on the other sides.
3 homes, 3 families. If the next storm comes, they won't run.
Charles entered the last window into the logbook and looked at the sky.
Cold fronts rolling in. Warren, we'll know soon if our numbers hold.
The second storm came faster than the first. A howling white wall that shattered windows and snapped timbers in the old cabins. At the pilot homes, the wind lifted and curved, leaving roofs untouched. Not a shingle was lost. When dawn broke, the skeptics stood in the snow, staring at the standing earthen walls.
They held, every one of them. Thermal mass and aerodynamics, proven.
Charles opened his journal and showed the neighbors the stark columns. Fuel saved, degrees held, roofs still whole.
You've seen it twice now. The earth and sun do the heavy lifting.
An old timber framer who'd called berms graves took off his cap. I was wrong, he said. I'll build one myself.
The numbers don't lie, and the storm doesn't either. This is the future.
The townspeople began to gather, asking to see the plans. The scoffing had turned to quiet curiosity.
Twice the wind tried to break us. Twice it failed. Maybe now they'll listen.
That evening, the meeting hall was full again. Charles Morton stepped to the front with a sheaf of papers.
I have here a complete ledger. Fuel by the cord, temperature by the hour, wind speed by the gauge. Warren's house outperformed every conventional cabin by a margin that cannot be ignored.
He pinned the data to the board. The columns were stark, one side frugal, the other wasteful.
I was the loudest skeptic. I was wrong. Earth berming is not a folly, it is proven engineering.
A murmur passed through the crowd. Then a vote was called. Hands rose. First a few, then a wave.
All those hands, the same ones that laughed. Now they're reaching for Earth.
The town adopted the bermed design. Charles turned to John and extended his hand.
Warren, let's make this official. Partners, we'll design for the whole county.
I reckon that's a partnership worth building.
Charles spent a final week compiling every figure into a report he titled On Earth-Sheltered Dwellings.
If this doesn't convince them, nothing will.
They presented themselves at the county offices, John in his canvas coat, and Charles with his leather briefcase.
Gentlemen, this design can save this county thousands in fuel costs and lives lost to winter wind.
The officials examined the blueprints, the fuel logs, the wind shear diagrams. After an hour of sharp questions, the chairman leaned back and nodded. They voted unanimously to commission Warren and Morton to design earth-bermed homes for the whole county.
From a fool to a county builder. The earth never laughed.
Outside, Charles opened his journal and wrote a single line beneath the title page, approved.
We're no longer just neighbors, Warren. We're the county's architects.
With county funding, a dozen new earth-bermed homes rose before the first autumn freeze, each facing south like sunflowers to the light.
Every shovel of earth now builds a home, not just a shelter. We're planting a town.
Keep the window walls clear. Every inch of glass counts.
By first snow, families moved in. A young couple carrying their belongings past the earth banks, smiling at the warmth, already rising inside.
The laughter is buried deeper than the walls now.
Outside John's original house, a small wooden sign now read, Warren's Earth Home. The dog lay beneath it, as if guarding the truth. When the deep winter returned, the village lay under a blanket of snow, but every south-facing window glowed gold through the drifts.
Look at that, Warren. A village of earth houses, and not a single cold complaint.
The earth does the work. We just gave it a shape.
The wind that once destroyed now only whispered over the berms, and the houses simply shrugged off the blizzard. The forecast had warned of a 100-year storm. When it came, the wind screamed, but the earth banks turned the gale upward. From the ridge, the village looked like a string of golden lanterns half buried in snow. John watched from his chair, his dog's head on his lap. The windows held steady.
Not a single broken pane, Warren. The numbers are alive out there.
Outside, the snow rose to the rooflines, but every south window glowed gold.
They'll never laugh at Earth again, will they?
Number. They'll just live in it.
For the first time since the meeting hall, John let himself smile. The blizzard raged on, but inside the earth houses, children slept warm and old men rested without shivering. All night, The village's south windows glowed gold, a row of beacons shrugging off the coldest winter on record. The morning after the 100-year storm, John stepped outside into a silent world of pristine snow. His dog bounded ahead, kicking up powder, as if even the animal knew the danger had passed. Charles joined him, the leather journal under his arm, and together they walked to the ridge.
They'll never laugh at Earth again, will they?
It was never about being right, Charles. It was about shelter.
Charles looked at the journal, then at the row of earth-backed houses, and he understood. He tucked the journal into his coat and stood beside John in the stillness. The dog sat at their feet, tail wagging, and the village lay peaceful under the winter sun. For a long moment, neither man spoke. The only sound was the distant crunch of snow under a child's boots. The earth had held, and so had they. The village lay nestled in snow, every south-facing window glowing gold through the drifted white. At the edge of the village, a small wooden sign marked the origin, Warren's Earth Home. The dog lay on the berm, chin on paws, as if resting on the very promise of safety. Night fell. The wind came again, but it found no seam to tear, only slopes to climb. From the ridge, the whole valley seemed to breathe a golden sigh, lights winking behind the drifts. Inside the houses, children pressed their hands to warm glass, and old men cracked windows to feel the cold but not let it in. The sign stood firm, the dogs slept on, and the village endured. The storm that had once made men laugh now only made the windows shine brighter. And a man with a brown beard, a dog at his side, stood at the window of the first earth house and simply watched. The wind whispered, but the walls answered with silence.